There is no rope attached to that person. That is very, very evident in the video.
Now, 3 people are charged with her murder, and the federal government faces a civil lawsuit.
In my personal point of view, everybody involved.
That is what happened. Think of it this way: the skeleton bridge was essentially a loaded gun that the government left on the kitchen table, told nobody to touch, and then walked out of the room. Except the room had no door, and people had been walking in for years. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Audit the Case, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Here is what the public record tells us. The Ponte do Esqueleto, the skeleton bridge, was built as part of a national railway expansion project. The train never came. The bridge was abandoned. Over time, it became a destination for underground rope jumping. Not bungee jumping, rope jumping, an activity that operates through pendulum physics rather than cord elasticity, and one that, according to expert testimony in this case, has no formal safety standards in Brazil or anywhere else at the time of this incident. No certification requirements, no mandated checklists.
When it comes to the bridge itself, the bridge was built to be path for a train line. That was a national train line that actually never crossed that bridge. The train never came. So that bridge was useless for many, many years. And these activities were happening here for many, many years. And nothing was done to stop this. They put signs up in one side, but the people were coming in through private properties that were close to the bridge. So they didn't even see a sign. They just knew that there was a bridge and they had to get there somehow. The bridge itself belongs to the federal government, but the city halls from the 2 towns involved also share responsibility on this. They had to put signs, they had to make sure that they prevent people from accessing this bridge, because it has been known that this was a dangerous place for many, many years. After this all happened, the federal government is compromised to implode the bridge. They're going to demolish it. And the cities involved is going to put access to prevent people from accessing this bridge from either sides. While that doesn't happen, but this happened now, this should have happened a long time before. And it also, in spite of all that, rope jumping is not exactly a new activity. It didn't begin to happen yesterday. So if it wasn't going to be absolutely prohibited, they should have been regulated.
And that is where it failed. According to Brazilian legal analysis and municipal filings, the city of Limeira had flagged this bridge repeatedly. Written correspondence to federal authorities documented the ongoing danger. Local officials were aware that groups were accessing the bridge through private properties, bypassing any posted warning signs entirely. The federal government knew. The municipal governments knew. And the people running illegal rope jumping operations off a structurally unchecked, federally owned abandoned railway bridge knew that nobody was coming to stop them. Nobody was coming to stop them. On June 13th, a group of unlicensed
My understanding is that rope jumping being a fairly new activity is not highly regulated. I have no knowledge of any safety standards that exist out there for that. There are many safety standards for bungee jumping. Depending on which jurisdiction you are in, you will be using one or the other. But in terms of rope jumps, no safety standards exist. So that is
no regulated operator licensing. Nothing. That is where the federal government's responsibility begins.
As basic as a safety to-do list.
What's required when you write a site operations plan is a series of checklists that everybody has to go through as they're performing the hookups. And so it's like before that person gets to the edge, there's 10 things that have to happen. Okay, first of all, let's check the harnesses. Double check the harnesses. Second, pick up the rope, connect it to the thing. That gets double checked as well. And before that, they can even get it detached from their safety line, which there should be a safety line on that person until they are connected to the whole entire rigging system. So all those things have to happen. Harness checks, connection checks, anchor checks, before anybody can even just proceed to the point where they can even get into a position to jump. And then once they get into that position, there's all another series of checks that have to happen. Okay, put your feet to the edge, get to this point, get to that point. I'm going to count to 3. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And if those aren't occurring properly, you need to.
No formal safety protocol. 3 men, 27-year-old Vitor Jory Fridogon Alves, 32-year-old Luis Felipe Feliciano Egorov, and 42-year-old Melton Fernandez Sintra, were among those operating the jump that day. Maria was brought to the edge of the platform in what is described as a Superman pose.
In the case of Maria, that's allegedly not what happened. And I say that based on several things, including witness testimony. Igor Deans was there at the time of Maria's jump and told Brazilian news outlet G1, quote, "The moment it all happened, you could hear the people in the back asking, 'Where's the rope? She's without a rope.' The operators didn't know what to say. Everyone who was there panicked and they had no answers." Another instructor, whose name has not been released, gave a statement to the civil police. According to UOL Noticias, they said, quote, "What I heard was, 'My God, the girl, help the girl,' because it's normal for the person to scream when they jump and for the crowd around to scream with them. I heard screams, and when I turned around..."
Nobody could say whose job it was to make sure she was attached to anything at all. Now here is the ticking clock question in this case, and it goes beyond Maria Eduarda. If there are no safety standards for...
They're being charged with homicide. This case, it brings up a very old debate about intent or blame, which is what we call dolo or culpa. They're being initially charged with homicide with the intention to kill somebody, which is homicídio doloso. When it comes to a case of homicide where there is no blame, where there's negligence, with what you call homicídio culposo, where we talk about the negligence, the imperícia, the duty to protect, but the absence of protection, those cases, they are not punishable by prison. You don't get in prison because of this type of crime. So when you don't get in prison for some type of crime, you can't be in preventive detention. That's what's going on right now. There are 3 people in preventive detention because of this crime.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get that preventive detention, they have to charge them initially with homicídio doloso.
Charged with homicide under Brazilian law, specifically.
According to Reza, everyone who rented a GoPro that day was given a yellow wristband. She noticed Maria had a wristband, meaning she was reportedly wearing a camera at the time of her jump. However, investigators still have yet to find the camera, meaning it's either missing or was purposely removed from Maria's body after the fall. According to the New York Post, investigators released a statement about the camera saying, quote, "The civil police are continuing their investigations to fully clarify the dynamics of the events, identify all criminal responsibilities, and locate the camera used by the victim at the time of the jump, considered an important element for reconstructing what happened."
Because the camera was with the victim the whole time, and the camera is going to show if she noticed that she had no rope, if she has to stop, if she was aware, if they were aware that she had no...
That camera matters enormously. If it is recovered, it may capture the seconds before the jump. Who was present? What was checked?
The accusation is that they were part of the team that was making sure this road jumping was happening. One of the people that were arrested is the one that was at the bottom of the bridge, which is accused of hiding the camera, which wasn't found yet. But a witness says that they saw him pick up the camera from the body.
That is what happened. Think of it this way, the skeleton bridge was essentially a loaded gun that the government left on the kitchen table, told nobody to touch, and then walked out of the room. Except the room had no door, and people had been walking in for years. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Audit the Case, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Here is what the public record tells us. The Ponte do Escalito, the Skeleton Bridge, was built as part of a national railway expansion project. The train never came. The bridge was abandoned. Over time, it became a destination for underground rope jumping. Not bungee jumping, rope jumping, an activity that operates through pendulum physics rather than cord elasticity, and one that, according to expert testimony in this case, has no formal safety standards in Brazil or anywhere else at the time of this incident. No certification requirements, no mandated checklists.
There's a line in criminal doctrine, which is we have dolo eventual and culpa consciente, which is in one side, you have the intent, but it's not exactly clear. You know that there's a risk and you don't care that somebody might die because of that. And in culpa consciente, you have a situation where you know there's a risk, but you hope that is not going to happen. In your conscience, you're clear that you're trying your best to not let that happen. And here's the catch. This is very difficult to prove in court. So when you have any type of doubt, the court has to rule in favor of the defendant. This is why I believe this is going to fall as homicidial proposal, because it's going to be very hard to prove intent in this case. Even though there is a lot of negligence and there were a lot of things that happened in order for this accident to take place, where there should be more responsibility, the government should have blocked the bridge, the police should have been seeing what is going on. If they know that there's always the risk of this accident, that people go there to jump, there should be some kind of security there. The people that wanted to make this jump, they should have at least ordered an authorization. They should have a legal company, at least, and they didn't.
No regulated operator licensing. Nothing. That is where the federal government's responsibility begins.
I think it is a strong lawsuit because the bridge is actually the responsibility of the federal government, so they should have secured the bridge. But they weren't the only ones who were responsible for it. Any authority that is related to the security of the city could have done that, could have done this. Not only the federal government, they should have all done it. When it comes to discussing responsibility, I think it's very clear that it falls under the federal government in this case.
No formal safety protocol. 3 men, 27-year-old Vitor Jory Fridogon Alves, 32-year-old Luis Felipe Feliciano Egarov, and 42-year-old Melton Fernandez Sintra were among those operating the jump that day. Maria was brought to the edge of the platform in what is described as a Superman pose.
Of Public Security of Sao Paulo also said, quote, "I've seen many deaths, crimes, criminals. I practice extreme sports. I have never seen such a disgusting and emblematic case of disregard for security and the lives of others as this one." So we've talked.
That camera matters enormously. If it is recovered, it may capture the seconds before the jump. Who was present? What was checked?
But when I read the reporting on it, those charges don't necessarily mean that they intended to kill her, but they acted in such a reckless manner that they disregarded what was a clear and known risk. And if you go to the idea of how could you not know that she wasn't attached, or you didn't even take the ability to attach her to the cords, you can see why that would be a charge here. I haven't seen anything to suggest that they planned this, that they wanted her dead, that they intended to kill her. But because it's such an egregious situation and it's such, the allegations of this are so abnormal, the idea of not the rope breaking, but she wasn't attached, you can understand where they're saying this is above and beyond just a mere act.
Nobody could say whose job it was to make sure she was attached to anything at all. Now here is the ticking clock question in this case, and it goes beyond Maria Eduarda. If there are no safety standards for
a change in the law, whatever it is, but sometimes it takes something like this to bring awareness to an issue that's been buried under the rug for quite some time.
And I mean, you even said it yourself, the fact that there's video of her being thrown off the ledge, because that is what it is. We've all seen the video. It's all over social media, and it's harrowing. I mean, I can't even think of a word to describe it other than that.
By the way, one thing we didn't even address, and Adriele told me about this. Do you know that after this happened, people in Brazil were making comments about Maria Eduarda's body? That became the topic of conversation, and they were like, I think it was about her autopsy, and she told me it's possible those people could be criminally charged for the comments that they make.
Which, that to me, we have that in this episode. That to me, I love that, because this is a young woman who did not deserve. She was 21 years old, plus her family, her friends, the entire world is looking at this case. Nobody should be making comments like that at this time. That's not what we should be focused on at all. That was a really interesting aspect to the case, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, Jesse.
Yeah, she brought it up to me. It was actually the first time I interviewed her. She's like, before you even get started, I have to mention this. And before we finished up our last interview, she wanted to bring awareness to that. Their freedom of speech protections are a little bit different than here in the United States, but it was an important aspect because you could just imagine what distress this is causing, and for the family on top of everything else that they're experiencing.
Truly such a tragic